Hi everyone, my name is Chinamaram. I'm a recent graduate and I'm here today to interview Beatrice. So Beatrice, if you'd like to introduce yourself. Today I'm going to be asking Beatrice some questions on venturing into the marketplace, preparing for life after graduation and integrating back into family life.
Thank you very much. So yes, my name is Beatrice, and if you can't tell by my age, I look young, hopefully, but I am 28 years old, which means that basically 10 years ago, I was in the same position as you guys where I was preparing to start and venture into the world of uni and go into further education after finishing my A-levels. So I went to the University of Warwick where I studied maths and statistics. I graduated, we thank God. And from there, I went to start my job in the Big Four. So I work at EY. I did my graduate scheme there, and then I transitioned to the strategy arm of EY, which is EY Parthenon, and then I've been there ever since. So I've been one of them people that has stayed in the same job since I left uni, but I know a lot of people and can talk to a lot of people that have ventured into various different things as well. But yeah, that's a bit about myself.
That's a very good summary of your past. And you've basically answered the first question I had actually, which is, could you tell our young people who you are briefly? I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I mentioned, so I went to university, I studied maths and statistics. That was just something that I was very passionate at the time, which I will go into later in terms of making sure that you choose something that you are passionate about if you haven't chosen yet. So yeah, I studied maths and statistics for 3 years. Like I said, I graduated, and then I went into the world of consulting. I was told about the world of consulting being very broad, meaning that you could venture into various different things afterwards if you wanted to. So that was my reason for choosing that. If you also know me, you know that I don't just do my corporate job. I also have a podcast, which is something that I run on the side. That's also another area for me to like do something that I'm really passionate about. And I think that's one of the things I'm going to keep on talking about in terms of making sure that you choose things that actually align to who you are, because otherwise you end up being in positions that you're not really happy with. But yeah, that's a bit more about myself.
That's really good. And connected to that, I wanted to ask as well, what principles have guided you in building strong academic and professional networks? And would you recommend these to young people as well?
Yes, so honestly, I know that you hear this all the time about the importance of networking, but I honestly cannot stress how important your network is. So I can even give you a bit of an anecdote in terms of my friend. So one of my best friends, if you don't know her, again, you'll know her through the podcast, but her name is Sharon. And one of the things that she really taught me was the power of networking. So one of the principles that I would definitely start off by saying is that you need to be curious. You can't just say that you want to get into certain things and not actually do the work to get into them. So that means read upon it. It doesn't matter whether you know nothing about it or whether you know a lot about it. Continue to read, because the market is constantly changing. So you want to be up to date with what's happening. So I definitely say make sure you are curious. The second thing I would say is be genuine. So when you're going out there, make real, genuine connections, friendships when you are networking. You don't honestly know who is going to be the person to elevate you and put you into the rooms that you need to be put into. So I'll definitely say be genuine and be curious about what you want to get into. I would also say, thirdly, put yourself out there. You know, I think sometimes it can be very difficult where you might not be somebody that has quite a bold, outgoing personality, but you don't have to be that. And it's not just those people who succeed. Just putting yourself out there and staying true to yourself is going to prove very, very valuable. And even stuff like, you know, obviously we're in the church, so making sure that you make it clear that you look, I'm a Christian, these are my principles. People respect you when you are firm in what you believe in and when you say this is your thoughts, rather than somebody that can easily be pushed around. That's something that I would definitely say is a principle that you should take into. But like I mentioned, in terms of the power of your network, so like I mentioned with my best friend, she was in an industry that she didn't really like. So once she'd finished uni, she was in an industry she didn't really like. And she remembered actually that one of her friend's dad was in the industry that she was very interested in. Now, it's not everybody that is bold enough to go to your friend and say, hey, connect me with your dad. Let me have a conversation with him. But this is what we mean about being genuine and being true to yourself and knowing what is it that you want and going for it. So she had a conversation with her friend's dad. Lo and behold, this is an industry that I can tell you is one of the hardest industries to get into. I personally know people who have got thousands of A stars, work experience, and they still haven't got in. But because of the connection she made, because she was true to herself, and she's very, very likable, which I know a lot of people are, that is what helped her, allowed her to get into the industry through that connection. So your network is really, really important. And for, obviously, like I mentioned, there's obviously some of you that are in uni or some people who are thinking about going to uni. There are amazing, amazing networks out there, which I will read out to you and share. Obviously, as Black people, we can't ignore the fact that a lot of us are going to be from a Black family. You're going to be venturing into industries which are predominantly white. You're going to be venturing into industries where you are going to be the minority, and it can sometimes be very, very difficult to break into those fields. So there are amazing organizations, some that are even Christian-based and some that aren't, that will essentially help prepare you to get into the workplace. So I'll list a couple of them now, which I have been a part of. I have a couple of friends I've also been a part of that I've reached out to. So I hope that you can reach out to these people. It doesn't matter what industry you get into, they will be of massive help. So the first one I'll mention is the SEO London. They were actually the people that got me into my graduate scheme, and I can go more into that later. But they are an amazing, amazing foundation, and they have a lot of people that are actually Christian-based, so they very much bring faith into the conversation as well. So encourage you to pray on what you're trying to achieve, but they also connect you to the people who are in those organizations who can help you get into the door. So SEO London is definitely one of them. Another one I would say is BYP Networks. That's Black Young Professionals Network. That's another amazing network which you can definitely reach out to. They're on all social media platforms. So Instagram, you know, all these social media platforms that you're very much watching and using, you can use these platforms to better yourself and to enter into the industry you want to. I'd also mention another one, which is actually a very Christian-based one, which I think has been absolutely amazing. I've seen the way it has transformed people's lives and prepared them for entering into the world of, you know, work, and that is 2020 Levels. That is an amazing foundation. They have done great things, really empowered a lot of people to go ahead and even start their own ventures as well. So that's another a company that I would very much encourage you to look into. And then another one, lastly, I would say, is Amos Bursary. That's another foundation which, again, very much helps Black people venture into the professional world. They have it's amazing charity. They also very much sponsor people as well, provide you with work experience, even just before you start uni or when you are in uni as well. So those are the list of platforms, but obviously there's loads more, but those are the ones that I know personally that can very much help you venture into the world of education and beyond.
Thank you so much. That was such an insightful look into the world of networking, and I honestly have to take some notes myself. But the next question, kind of linked to that as well, is since you graduated from university, you've worked for one of the big four, and to describe some of the largest four accounting firms, Deloitte, EY, KPMG, and PwC as well. So I just wanted to know, and I'm sure everyone here wants to know as well, when and how did you start the process?
Yes, so my story is very, very interesting. So I actually discovered my company when I was in sixth form. And I will never, ever forget this moment. You know, sometimes you have like a break during your sessions, your class sessions. So I was just in the library and I was on my computer and I was just searching and I said, I need money, yo. I've heard everyone talk about the fact that when you go to uni, money is definitely a topic of conversation to even survive. Listen, I like my food. So I said, okay, let me see what is out there that can help me during my time at uni. So I was just searching and I just started searching, you know, Black graduate programs, Black this, Black that, because obviously that was what I knew would help me hopefully get into the field of working. And funny enough, I came across a program at EY, and essentially that was a graduate program, but I scrolled down and I saw that they had an opportunity which was called an EY scholarship. Now, what that is essentially they paid for you to spend your summers from the moment that you started uni. So for your first year summer, your second year summer, and also once you finished, then if you were successful, you would then get the graduate job. So obviously I saw this, I said, oh, this is fantastic. This would suit me. Let me just apply. I honestly did not think that I was going to get it at all. But obviously through prayer and actually through reaching out to like my own friends, for example, that I knew, but also trying to get into different programs, I just put my head down and applied. And luckily, thank God, I managed to get that opportunity. So I was very, very blessed that I was actually into EY just before I'd actually even got my offer for uni. So I had a confirmed job over the summers with them. But obviously it wasn't guaranteed that I was going to get the graduate job. So I had to work very hard during those summers. Like I said, in terms of making those real genuine connections, that had people vouching for me at the company saying, look, I've worked with this girl over the past how many weeks in summer, was it 6 weeks plus? She's been great. Like, I would want her to join my team. And those are the lasting impressions that really allow you to propel and excel. So that's how I got to know about EY. And then, like I said, God willing, after I graduated, I then got the graduate job. So from there, I then started my graduate job, and I was on a graduate scheme for about 2 years. And with that graduate scheme and with a lot of graduate programs, when you are starting at these firms, they have things called rotations. So you rotate around different, teams to see what suits you, what's not, what doesn't suit you. And I think that's where you have to be true to yourself and understand, look, can I see myself actually excelling here? Am I good at this thing? And that's where I realized that actually I was very much somebody that is very much a forward thinker. I'm very strategic in the way that I think. I'm not really somebody that's a doer. So that's where I decided after my graduate scheme to go into the strategy arm of EY. And that's where I've been for the last 5 years.
That's so good to hear, and that's answered as well, like the question I have next. I like to hear like the early steps you've taken, but and you've already kind of answered this in part, but how fulfilling has this been for you all as well?
Yeah, I would definitely say it is very fulfilling to, be able to set your mind on something and to be able to achieve it. I always say this to everybody, even though it might not be the answer that everyone likes to hear, but your job is definitely one aspect of your life. It's not your whole aspect of your life, but it's a big, important one and something that you should take very seriously. So I think for me, like I said, I've always been somebody that has had my head screwed on, let's just say that. So when I do want to achieve something, I really put my mind down towards it and really hope that I can achieve it. But I will say as well that, there's a lot of different aspects of yourself that you have to realize that this is really important too. So for example, there are certain even projects at work that I've declined because of my faith, because of what I believe in. You don't want to put yourself in compromising positions just for the sake of money. And I think one thing that I've definitely learned through people that, have also gone through the same career path as me or even other career paths is that money is obviously a good thing. It can do a lot of things, but it's also not ultimately the thing that gives you ultimate happiness. I think you have to find that and strike that balance between choosing something that obviously allows you to live your life, be able to do certain things, but also understand what is it, like I said, you are passionate about and what actually gives you the motivation to make up every morning. So I think for me, I've been very blessed and fortunate to find a career that has allowed me to do that. But I would say that, you have to try things to know whether it works for you and whether it's not. So don't be scared to start something new. But once you start it, if you don't like it, you are not tied into that one thing. You can definitely pivot, and especially using the right network, like I mentioned, making the right connections. The world is literally your oyster. You can do whatever it is that you set your mind to. So I definitely say that, like I said, it's been very, very fulfilling in my career, but I would say there's a lot of things outside of my career as well that has been more fulfilling, even growing my faith, making real friendships, just doing the things that I'm very, very passionate about. I think that's really what has made me fulfilled. But yeah.
That's really good. And you've talked a lot about the strengths and the positives about that process that you went through. Yeah. Could you possibly talk about if there were any challenges, and if so, how did you navigate that process as well?
Yes, there's always there's always challenges, as you can imagine. Like I mentioned, we don't really talk about it a lot, but sometimes you do hear about it in terms of how it is being Black in an organization where you don't typically see your fellow faces in the higher senior positions. It is sometimes very daunting. Sometimes you feel like you can't really relate. But I think through that, you just have to, again, prayer is obviously a key thing, to pray about the situations that you may find yourself in the workplace. But like I said, I was very, very, very fortunate to have 1 or 2 people in the company that were Black that I did have as mentors. And mentors are very, very important. They are really key in guiding you through situations because they've actually been through it themselves. So I would definitely say that, during the tough challenges, mentors have been a massive, massive part in me being able to kind of get out of those. I would also say, with the industry that I'm in, my hours aren't particularly the greatest. There has been times, and I have to be true, I always tell people, and I'm always honest, and even my company, they tell us to tell people that it's not an easy thing. Making money, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to wake up, stroll into work, have a breeze, and then come back. It takes a lot of sacrifice. There are times where I might unfortunately be in the office at 9 p.m. There might be times where, it's a lot of pressure that they put on us. But obviously that's kind of how you either excel or you don't. But I would say, in terms of time, sacrificing time, and then, for example, like I said, being Black just in a predominantly white space, it has been difficult at times, but like I said, mentors, having the right connections and talking to people has definitely allowed me to navigate those difficult situations.
That's really, really, really good. And added on to that as well, what advice will you give to our young people as well to help them start to prepare themselves and dream big?
Yes, so like I said, I listed out those networks. I wasn't joking when I say those have really transformed a lot of people's lives. Sometimes you don't know what is even out there because where you have grown up, you've just not been able to see that there's so much to the world that you can basically do. And these networks allow you to open your mind up to think about the various different ways that you could essentially build your career. Like, it doesn't always have to be uni. I know people who haven't gone to uni who have gone into the world of apprenticeship and have done exceedingly well. I know people who have known from the jump that they want to be a lawyer and have gone down that path and have done exceedingly well. I know people who have said that they want to be a doctor, done 3 years, decided, no, I don't want to be a doctor anymore, leave with a biomedical degree, go into the world of finance, and now they're vice presidents of, these big investment banks. So I just say that, definitely use the networks, like I mentioned, to understand more around what is there that you can do in your career. I'd also say that you should be open in terms of sometimes you actually don't realize that it's a particular job that you want to go into. You might think, oh, like I said, how sometimes when you grow up in an African household, you must be a doctor, you must be a lawyer, which, yes, obviously is a good foundation. If that's what you want to do, great. But there are so many other fields that you can basically exceed just as well, even greater than, that I would definitely say just be open and mindful of those ones as well. So I think my advice to a lot of people, whether you are, starting uni or whether you are in uni, is to be open. There are normally in uni, there's a lot of fairs, job fairs, etc. Please, let's be getting up from our beds and be going to them. I know they don't always sound the most amazing, but it's really, really good to attend those events to understand exactly what is out there. Because even for me, like I said, I just stumbled across consulting by typing a few words on Google. I had no idea what that job was or what it entailed. But obviously through searching, through actually attending, I got to realize what it is. And then I discovered that it was for me. So I would definitely say be open, be inquisitive, and definitely, like I said, use those networks like I mentioned.
That's so good. And the advice you've given throughout this entire interview has been amazing. So thank you for that. And the last question I have, which pertains to me as well, because I recently graduated from university. Post-graduation, you came back home to live with your parents and you never moved until you bought your own house. Could you please talk to us about some of the practicalities of effectively navigating this?
Okay, yes, so look, I always start off by saying that I've been very, very blessed. I'm from a family where we are very, very close. So one thing that I was very intentional once I had actually left my family home to go to uni was making sure that I maintained relationships back home. So I would call very much often. Obviously, I was living in Coventry, so for me, it was only about a 2.5 hour journey back home. So I'd be very intentional to come back home for big occasions. And I think I always tell people to try and do this. I know that you might think, I'm finally free, hallelujah. But it's very, very important in terms of maintaining and building, keeping the family that you have in close proximity. They're they're very important. And also having your parents there to be able to kind of speak to, ask for advice on. Trust me, I know that you might think, why am I asking my parents? But they do give good advice. And you know how it is when you get older as well. You always say, if only I listened to my parents. So they know exactly what they're talking about. So that's one thing that I would say I was very intentional about doing, because I knew that when I come back, I'm coming back home to this house, so let me at least maintain the relationship. So for me, like I said, I was very intentional when I went to uni, and obviously when I came back, like I said, and like you've mentioned, I knew that I personally wanted to come back home, live at home, and God willing, be able to save up enough money to be able to buy my own property, which I did.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that it can be difficult. And I think when you go away from uni, obviously you kind of become a new person. You know, you've gone through life experiences. You definitely feel like, yeah, I'm an adult. You know, I can operate this life by myself. But you're coming back to your parents' home, and they're very much still the people that are running the household that you need to listen to. So I think sometimes it's also good, like I mentioned, to be intentional. I had very regular conversations with my parents. You know, I would sit them down, we would have the conversations, they'll say, okay, cool, you know, how do you want to operate this particular aspect? How do you want to operate that? And I think you have to understand where they're coming from. Obviously, they're still adults and that's still their house. So I think being intentional, understanding where they're coming from, and understanding the bigger picture. You know, I felt like it was an honor to be able to come back to my parents' household. I know a lot of people who unfortunately didn't have the resources and ability to come back. And you know, if that is you, where you're in a situation where you're not able to come back home, you know, there are obviously people that go straight to living by themselves, which obviously sounds great, but it is really important to still keep in touch with your family, whether you are living at home or whether you're not. Like I said, you come to realize in life that your family is one of the few people that will really be there for you through and through, and you know, support you in tough times and even celebrate you in good times. So that's one of the life lessons that I've learned. But yeah, like I said, I was very, very blessed and fortunate to be in a job that, you know, was able to allow me to save, to be able to buy my own property, and living at home massively reduced my expenses. I know a lot of people who, like I said, unfortunately may not be in the same position as me, who might have to rent, who might have to step out, so it takes them a little bit longer to be able to do that. But if you are able to go back home, see that as an opportunity, see that as a blessing, you know. Some people, yes, they are contributing to their family households as well. You know, just have that conversation, let your parents in on your plans. You know, if I feel like a lot of you know, us, we sometimes struggle to communicate to our parents, and we then get angry at them when they're suggesting things that, you know, we haven't really told them what our plans are. So I think being able to be open and transparent with your parents, I'm sure that your parents 100% will want to see you succeed in your life. So when you're able to share those plans, they were able to kind of help you and facilitate that journey too. So that's one of the things I would say definitely helped me. And God willing, you know, I moved out, but sometimes I wish I was moving back home, or living outside of your parents' house is not easy. All these bills, be enjoying yourself at home. It's definitely the great time to be able to focus on your education, focus on what jobs you want to get, rather than stressing out about bills, etc. You know, that's one of the benefits I would definitely say is about moving back home.
Thank you so much. That was so good, and I'm definitely going to take that into account post-graduation. And thank you so much for answering all the questions. I hope you guys found this interview really useful and you noted down everything, because there was so much said that was so insightful. And thank you for coming on to this interview, for answering the questions for all these young people. And thank you guys for listening.
Thanks.